Okay guys, in this short but important chapter we will be texturing those gun objects. You will have access to the FBX file and to the texture that I did create out of Substance Painter. The texture I create will not win any texturing contest, neither will do the model or the scene configuration I just created. The idea is just to convey the message about how to use texture with Redshift. Again, in my case, I'm using Substance Painter, but your texture could be coming from anywhere. It will not change anything in the way that you assign them and with the result that you get. Now, let's look at the material. We have this, we have that. Let's do a quick IPR and see what it's giving us. It is fairly okay. Let's do a render to see what our render times are. And in the meantime that the render is running, we will be working on looking at what material and what parameter we want to tweak. We will have a color map, we will have a roughness map, we will have a metalness map. We will make sure that we are in GGX BRDF. Very important when you use your texture from Substance Painter or Substance Designer, as this is the BRDF that work the closest. Actually, it's one-to-one with Substance. Depending on what you use, you might want to use a Beckman, a Cook Torrance, or Ice Cream Shader, which I never use. Generally, if I'm not using a Substance Painter or Substance Designer texture, I generally stay into a Beckman, Cook Torrance. Anyway, here, this is the result of what we have. It's a little bit grainy, but I don't care for now. I'm rendering at 1080p. I have a lot of reflection going on. I have an IBL that you know by now to create. And I also have another light here, which is a physical light, which is a little bit on in that area to get the shadow here in that area. So first I will make sure that I turn off or I go to raw. Raw meaning it's the same result as if it's turned off. Here, color correction off. So sRGB and all that stuff we don't really need and we don't really want. 1.8, 2.2 gamma, yeah, 1.8 is probably the closest to raw, but I prefer to stay in raw because my texture will be raw anyway. Again, it's a bit dark, but I could go and tweak my camera and we will do it toward the end, but for now we want in this chapter to talk about texturing. Let's go. Material, gunny, you can call it whatever you want. You will go turn on your IPA. It's always nice to see what's going on. We'll click on color and we will choose a file and we will point to our texture. And we will grab the base color. The stuff we need to make sure is that our base color, we don't want to render, we want IPA, please, is that the base color is raw. In this case we make sure it's turned to raw. So it is already better. Now the next step is to look at our shader. I realize that we have a very flat reflection, flat in the sense that there is no variation in it. Everything is at 100%. That's why we will go here into roughness and we will grab a roughness map. We will click here, we will point to the roughness map. Nice. Now the big difference is that for the roughness map we want to keep it sRGB. Every grayscale map that is coming out of Substance Painter or Substance Designer need to be an sRGB map. It's fairly easy to remember. If there is color, it's raw. If there is, if it's a grayscale, it's sRGB. Here we want to make sure that we're using metalness, but that we're also using a metallic texture. 2D texture file, point to it, and we want metallic. Now it's turned on, right? Do we want sRGB or do we want raw? Is that up to us to decide? No, we want to make sure we are using sRGB because it's a grayscale texture. It's super easy to remember. Color, raw, grayscale, black and white, whatever, sRGB. Now that we have that in place, we also want to bring a normal map. The normal map, we can drop it directly into the shader, or we can drop it into a material. I mean material shader. Oh, expand please. Okay, here. Right now we will drop it here. Bump map shader. We will drop here file, and we will point to. I don't want a bump map. I did something wrong. See, Redshift bump map shader. We want to grab not a file. We want a shader. We want a normal map, and here we can go on that normal and point it to the right map. Here we go here. Normal OpenGL. So if you look here in this area, you will see that the gun handle is getting some type of bump feature. Again, it's not pretty, it's very quickly done. The idea is just to show you how to do it. Later we will go more in depth with texture. What else do we do at this point? I think it's fairly okay. Texture, maybe we can tweak our material a little bit and see what type of feature we could have. I will say reflection brutalness, it's okay. We could push. We should not do that, right? We should definitively not do that, but we will do it. We could push the value here for the metallic. And as you can see, we should not have done it. That's why you have to be very careful. If you know that your shader is coming out of Substance Painter or Substance Designer, or that you create your texture somewhere else, you should have very minimum impact on, or minimum, how do you kind of say that, minimum need to go into your shader and move slider around. Since you have your texture define your material. A last little thing that we need to do, first we need to make sure that we're using the proper one. It should be better now. Okay, is to make sure that we are using not Beckman Cook but GGX. Very important with any texture coming out of Substance Painter or Substance Designer. I don't know about Quixel. It might be that it works better with Cook Torrents, but in the case of this Substance, it's better to use GGX, at least in my experience. So we have this, we have that, we have IP. What else do we need? We can start to look at our light a little bit before we do a final render. Dome light. Look at those features. 0, we'll put it at 0.5 in the exposure. And my render is quite grainy actually, but it is fairly okay. We will look at first the ground. The ground, we will give him 128 sample for the reflection. Our light, we will make sure that the sample for the light are at 128. Here, 128 and 128. So, and we should be able to get fairly decent render. Let's click here. For this one, I will just stop the render, the recording while it renders, because I think it will render around 2 minutes. Actually, I was completely wrong. The render time are 1 minute and 12 seconds, which give me some room to tweak, because everything is kind of grainy, which I kind of like, but for the intent of purpose of this video, we will see how we can optimize that. Let's go here and look at our render setting. Here we will make sure brute force GI is at 64. We will put at 128. We will tell him to use irradiance cache. We will tell it to use brute force, and output, we are looking at that, and we are fairly good on that side. maybe we should go 512. We should be able to get a lot less noise. Let's see what it is doing. Let's click render and see what's happening. And as we can see, we already have a lot less noise, and our render time went from 112 to 204. We could continue like that and push it further. Look at those sample here, look at the sample from the light, but I think for now it's okay. It's really illustrate the purpose of his chapter, how to use texture with Redshift, and especially how to use texture from Substance Designer or Substance Painter in Redshift. Keep in mind, if your texture has been painted somewhere else, not a problem. So I will then suggest that we move to the next chapter.